Donald Trump got incredibly angry after the Biden campaign took a jab at him over his latest NRA speech that was incredibly bad. I've watched it multiple times, and he was only semi-coherent. He came off as unstable, unsteady. He was slurring his way through the entire speech, and then about halfway through it, he just paused so some weird cult-like music could play in the background, and he stood there motionless for over a minute, just barely shaking his head. And in response to that, the Biden-Harris rapid response team on Twitter said, Trump starts playing QAnon music during his bizarre, slur-filled NRA speech. I'm going to play 10 seconds of this. Nobody wants to watch the full thing, just so you guys can see what we're talking about.
Nation in the history of the world.
And that went on for over a minute. If President Biden did that exact same thing at a speech, paused so music could play in the background, and just stood there motionless, the right-wing media would never forget it. Actually, they would come up with conspiracy theories about how Biden malfunctioned mid-speech or whatever. But Donald Trump said in response on Truth Social, "My speech in Dallas this weekend at the NRA's endorsement of President Donald J. Trump was attended by a record crowd." That was not a record crowd. "Of very enthusiastic patriots. The Biden campaign, however, put out a fake story that I froze for 30 seconds going into the musical interlude section, when in actuality, the 30 to 60 second period of silence is standard in every one of my speeches where we use the music. Check out any of my speeches." Well, maybe it shouldn't be standard because it's incredibly, incredibly odd. What other politician does that unless you're trying to be the leader of a cult? And he also calls them patriots, but I would beg to differ. You're not a patriot if you're supporting the guy who successfully interrupted our peaceful transfer of power, who made claims of widespread, unprecedented election fraud, then when he wasn't able to substantiate those claims in any courts, decided to double down on those claims and call different officials across the country, pressuring them into finding votes. That is the exact opposite of being patriotic. But the Biden's rapid response team on Twitter then said, Trump melts down over this clip we posted, showing himself freezing on stage, claiming it's a fake story. He did, in fact, freeze on stage, and that's what it looks like. Trump literally stood there for over a minute, just not moving while the music played. Hillary Clinton then decided to double down and take another jab at Donald Trump over a different part of the same speech, and I'll break that down in a second, but first, I want you guys to watch a clip of liberal debater Stephen Bunnell explaining exactly why Donald Trump made a terrible president, is a terrible businessman, is a terrible person altogether. I thought this was a brilliant clip. Leave a like on this video if you agree.
But I was a supervisor in a restaurant. If I was given a shift and all my tables were dirty, my manager comes in and she sees my restaurant, it's my ass. I'm in trouble. I can't say, like, well, these employees were working against me and these guys didn't show up and these guys didn't call in. She said, okay, well, you're getting paid the big bucks. It's your responsibility. You're the leader there, right? When Trump was coming into office, because I am an ardent capitalist, the only redeeming quality I saw was, well, okay, he is a business guy, so at the very least, maybe he's got some comprehension in terms of how to get people with different opinions to actually work together. And he is the most divisive leader in recent U.S. history. The idea that, even his former chief of staff was against him, like that's a point in favor of Trump. These are your people. You're nominated. How is it that every person that's worked with him, how is it that his former attorney generals, his chiefs of staff, his personal friends, his personal lawyers, when you have this many people around you that are saying to the rest of the world, don't trust this guy, this guy is no good. I don't work with him anymore. I don't trust this guy anymore. Like, at what point do you look at him and you're like, okay, well, maybe it's not actually the deep state, every single institution, all of the media, all of the world, all of academia, and all of the politicians against him. Maybe it's just kind of like a bad person who's not very good at getting his job done.
That is a point I make to Trump supporters all the time. I usually run them down the list and say, do you trust Mike Pence? They say no. Do you trust Mark Meadows? They say no. Do you trust Bill Barr? They say no. I say, how do you live in this reality where every single institution is rigged against you and you only trust Donald Trump? Watch this clip of me using this exact line of questioning on Roger Stone's nephew, Alex Stone. Do you trust Mike Pence at all when he says the election wasn't stolen?
I don't trust Mike Pence, period.
Let me ask you, do you trust Bill Barr at all when he says the election wasn't stolen?
No.
Do you trust Mark Meadows at all when he says the election wasn't stolen?
No.
You don't trust the 60 courts that Trump brought evidence to?
No.
So it makes me worry when every single court, every single institution, every single person in America that's not Donald Trump or Mike Lindell are lying to you. And I'm going to go back to my point. When you weigh the credibility of these people, do I believe every single institution, which sure, they're flawed, or do I trust Mike Lindell? Probably the institutions that are upholding our democracy, right?
I would say that the institutions that are upholding our democracy aren't upholding our democracy.
Expand on that.
What we see is a rise of communism all over the United States. And so if you go and look at what the Frankfurt School in Frankfurt had, they have 11 main points that they want to be involved in every single facet of society.
What's the definition of communism in your eyes?
I don't have the definition of communism all over. I have the points, what these things look like. I don't have the definition.
Yeah, that's okay. Imagine saying on camera that communism is the biggest threat to the United States, but then not even knowing the definition of communism. He later says that Gen Z has been indoctrinated by liberalism or communism, but it seems like he's the one that has been indoctrinated by his family, people like Roger Stone. This is all to say that Donald Trump has successfully instilled this distrust in every single institution, and now his supporters only trust him. That is literally the definition of a cult. They don't trust anybody, including Mike Pence, Bill Barr, Mark Meadows, which these aren't people that I love either, but to only trust Donald Trump and nobody else in the government, that is insane to me. So Hillary Clinton also took a jab at Donald Trump after he said that the radical, extremist Democrats are trying to federally legalize abortion. Watch this clip.
That's the way it should be, and that's the way people have wanted it to be for many, many decades. If the radical Democrat extremists get their way, they will have a federal law for abortion.
Yeah, Trump, Democrats are so extreme and radical for simply wanting women to have access to health care, or for simply wanting women to be able to get an abortion in a safe way. There used to be the phrase, abortion should be safe, legal, but rare, and Republican policies don't allow for any of those things. They make it so that abortions are not safe, illegal, and not rare whatsoever. Think about it. If you want abortions to be rare, you have to take preventative measures as a first step. Preventative measures like teaching sex ed from a young age or allowing widespread access to contraception. But Republicans want to ban sex ed, they want to ban contraception, therefore creating more and more situations where an abortion would be necessary. They say they're all for family values, but all of their policies create more single-parent households. But in response to that clip, Hillary Clinton said, "I've got to hand it to Donald Trump. He's right about this one." And that sarcastic tweet went viral on Hillary Clinton's Twitter account. I'm incredibly happy that the Democrats are finally stepping up their social media digital game and taking some jabs at Donald Trump. Some classy jabs where they're not making up nicknames like they're kindergartners like Donald Trump does. But if he ends up firing back at Hillary Clinton because of that comment, I'll update you guys. Either way, leave a like on this video, comment a blue heart if you made it this far. Most importantly, have a great week, everybody.